Look, we have holes at wide receiver as we did not franchise tag Kenny Galladay. I did an updated list of possible targets for the Lions via wide receiver in free agency. Let's begin. What is going on, YouTube, and welcome to Detroit Lions Talk with Micro Mike. We talk all things Detroit Lions, news, rumors, analysis, breakdown, and everything regarding our franchise. In this video, I'm going to give you an updated list of possible targets. Majority of these guys do have connections to the coaching staff currently under the Lions, and they can take a look out. No particular order when it comes to age and salary. It could be a number 2 guy, it could be a number 5 guy. This is just a list that I had of possible free agent targets. Let's start. The first player on my list was actually just released by the New Orleans Saints, and that is Emmanuel Sanders. Yes, he's a little bit older at 33, but he still has talent left in the tank. He's 5'11", 180 pounds. Generally could be a slot guy, but he does get open in space. We look at his stats. He played in 14 games. He had 61 receptions, 726 yards, and 5 touchdowns. He's still a good player even at his older age, and he can really help out Jared Goff with these dump down passes. I don't think it's going to cost a whole lot if the Detroit Lions really wanted to acquire his services. I think he would be a very good veteran piece to help mold the young wide receivers we have on the team, and we're probably going to take in the draft. He still has ability to get separation. He still can get those first downs, and it's going to be a lower cost, so I think the Detroit Lions could take a look at him. Let's go ahead and get this conversation rolling. Under the pinned comment, let me know, what wide receiver do you want in free agency? If they decided to go that route, obviously they can do the NFL draft, but if you can get a wide receiver here, let me know. Throw in a name in the pinned comment. The next player on my list is very likely if you're looking at this list, and this one is Josh Reynolds. He is 6'3", 196, and he's young at 26. What's good about Josh Reynolds here is his age and, well, the connections to the Los Angeles Rams, and he's a bigger body. Being young, he played in 16 games, 52 receptions, 618 yards, and 2 touchdowns. The touchdowns are not that high. With that said, I think he's got a higher ceiling, and with the ability of being placed in a position to succeed, the opposite of Tyrell Williams, I think those numbers could go up. Look, the shoe's got to be filled somehow with Kenny Galladay, and he's got that bigger size to him to be a more reliable pass catcher. With the connections, the age, and I don't think the contract's going to be that big, it seems like a logical target for the Detroit Lions to go ahead and try to acquire his services and place him in the wide receiver core. You'd add him, you'd have Tyrell Williams, Quintez Cephas, and you're probably going to draft a wide receiver. That seems like a logical, decent wide receiver core for 2021. Look, we're going to be a team that runs the football, and I don't think you'd be that bad having that type of threats out there, and it's always important to get touchdowns. Having a big body in the red zone would help that out. A guy who I really do like, and it seems to be underrated because you don't hear a lot about him, is Will Fuller, the wide receiver from the Houston Texans. He's 6 foot, 184 pounds, and he's again a young at 26. His stats are not bad considering the fact he played in 11 games only. He had 53 receptions, 879 yards, and 8 touchdowns. He was getting the football. Imagine if he played all 16 games, those stats would be legit. I think he would be a little bit pricier. With that said, I think he would be a very good number 1 wide receiver. Him, Tyrell Williams, that would be a fairly good duo. I think he'd be a good complement to Kenny Galladay being gone. He would be a good player to fill in the shoes of Kenny Galladay. Lions then could go ahead and draft a young guy, and your receiver depth is much better. With that said, I think the contract would be a little bit higher, so the odds of the Lions going after him seems a little bit less likely. Here's a guy with the connections to the Lions as well, and obviously it's veteran DESEAN Jackson. Wide receiver, 5'10", 175. He is older at 34. Yes, he only played in 5 games, 14 receptions, 236 yards, and 1 touchdown. There's many issues with DESEAN Jackson. Obviously, it's more the attitude and obviously the health issue. With that said, the Lions are cash-strapped, and he would be cheap. He has connections, obviously, from our coaching staff, and if the Lions wanted to attempt to stretch the field, he could be an individual they look to on a veteran cheap option. I think this is more or less likely just because of the situation that we're in. We're trying to probably get younger here, and I think that he is near the end of his career. But again, if the Lions strike out on some guys and they need some individuals on this team, they could look upon him. This is a wide receiver I really like because he's a big body. Corey Davis out of the Tennessee Titans, 6'3", 209, and he's young at 26. We will look at his stats. It's very good stats here. He played in 14 games, 65 receptions, almost 1,000 yards, and 5 touchdowns. And this is a team that generally is very balanced when it comes to pass and run. Now, if the Lions really wanted to get a big body in there, a real good, I think, number one, Corey Davis would be that guy. It just depends on the type of money Brad Holmes wants to spend. Would they invest in a Corey Davis? If they tried to re-sign Kenny Galladay and they struck out there, they could look to Corey Davis to fill in his shoes. I think he would be a very good player for this team, just not 100% sure that's the direction they want to go in this rebuild. They may simply want to go the cheap route and find the future of the wide receiver, a true number one in the NFL draft. Now, this guy is a definite depth player here. We're talking about BENNIE FOWLER. He's 6'1", 212, and he's age of 29. Obvious connections to the New Orleans Saints. You're going to see a lot of connections here, as we've already. We look at his stats. It's not a whole lot at all. He only played in 5 games. 2 receptions, 11 yards, 0 touchdowns. Again, this would be a depth player attempting to make the roster they can look at, but he does have a bigger body, a target they can attempt to throw in the red zone, maybe in the preseason, see if he's got anything that could be value to the Lions' depth. It's always important to find not just number one guys, but depth players that could really fill out. Again, they may not want to go to this route because of his age, but they may not have a choice. It just depends on what type of direction they go, but there's a connection there. He's a free agent. He'll be extremely cheap, and he's a big body. Maybe take a flyer to see if he can make the team. Folks, make sure you go ahead and subscribe to the channel. Why do you want to do that? Because I'm dropping Lions content every single day, and if you don't subscribe, you could miss out. Look, I'm dropping content in sporadically times throughout the day. It may not be the same time. You want to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on all Detroit Lions content. Here is a smaller guy who I think, if he played, could be decent if he can stay on the field, though. We're talking about wide receiver John Ross, 5'11", 194, because he's young at 25. He is fast. Just like I stated, the issue here is he didn't play in games. We're talking 3 games, 2 receptions, 17 yards, 0 touchdowns. He would be extremely cheap. And it could be an individual if they want to do a speedier player, they don't have the money, and they need to get a body, take a flyer on John Ross. When you're in a situation like we are, thanks to Quinn Trisha, you have to take flyers and see if you can make something out of nothing. John Ross, I think, would be extremely cheap. He does have speed. It is something that it can use, again, with Jared Goff. Look, he needs speed receivers. It's what he did well when he was with the Rams. They can add this guy, and it would not be bad, at least to attempt to give it a try. If it doesn't work, hey, it's not like the contract would be big. They can go ahead and cut him. No big deal. All in all, there's a lot of other players that the Lions could definitely look towards to adding depth. I mean, you got Mohamed Sanu. Obviously, he was with the Lions last year. You got players all over the NFL that's hitting the free agent markets. You got the Golden Tate, who obviously had connections before when he was with the Lions, but there's plenty of other players that you look upon to really fill out the depth of the wide receiver core that we don't have a whole lot of depth in, and it's vital to understand that not necessarily the big names is the individuals that can get it. And that's why it's important to look at number 2, 3, 4, and 5 receivers. Maybe someone comes out and really shows that they can do it. We've seen it many times in the NFL. And more importantly, I think when you're trying to get a true number one or a real difference maker, you're not generally going to find a whole lot of that type of talent in free agency. Where you're going to find it is the NFL draft. We got Kenny Galladay in the 3rd round. Brad Holmes has his work to do to help us get that depth at the wide receiver position. And I think for me personally, if you're going to get a true difference maker, I would love for them to do it in the draft and complement in free agency. I love complement pieces. If it's a low contract, a low risk, but there's a high reward, I have no problem with a GM taking a bone and throwing it to see if they can get anything. No doubt about it. I think that's really how you want to function as a franchise. Build that depth and get your playmakers in the draft, not spend a whole lot of money in free agency. And there's plenty of players to do so. Plenty of opportunity for the Lions to upgrade that wide receiver position in the NFL draft and free agency. And I think this is a fairly decent list with connections. Plenty of other receivers out there that they can look upon. Maybe they feel have a better opportunity to become something better with the Lions. Hit that like button, folks. Why do you want to do that? Well, the more likes you get, the more chance that the video gets out via YouTube algorithm. It is vital towards the success of a video. So go ahead and smash that like button. Plus, the folks of Chat Sports, they're looking at me and they're saying, hey, Mike, you need to get those likes up. So I am letting you know, help a guy out. Let's get those likes up. But I think having connections, just like Dan Campbell stated and Brad Holmes stated already, is important, and that's why you're going to see lists coming forward from my channel. We're talking about running backs, we're talking about offensive linemen and corners and safeties, all that. We look a little bit closer, take a microscope closer to the teams that the coaches were around, so they have an understanding of the type of player they're going to be working with while they try to develop the Detroit Lions culture, the Lions way. Not the Saints way, not the Rams way, definitely not the Patriots way, but the Detroit Lions way. And it's going to take a little bit of time, but hey, I can't wait to see all this stuff unfold and getting at it. Folks, in the upcoming videos, you get the One Pride podcast on my channel every single Thursday at 6:30 p.m. EST. It's a fun show, very interactive. We got the mailbag segment where you got questions, I have answers, and the panel as well, because it's not just myself on there. So go ahead, make sure you are on, hit that notification bell. See you Thursday.